Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. Joining me is Ben Jones, Product Development Specialist with the Index Research Team at Nasdaq to discuss the EMCLOUD Index and how it capitalizes on cloud computing trends. Ben, it's great to have you with us as always. Tell us a bit about the EMCLOUD Index.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So we think about this index, it's called the BVP Nasdaq Emerging Cloud Index. And it basically tracks a really an important and innovative, theme or sector within, today's age, right? I mean, what was once a buzzword a couple of years ago, right? Cloud computing, let's send it to the cloud, is now part of everyday life, right? I mean, you think about this very call, it wouldn't be possible without cloud computing, right? And you think about what's happening today with the COVID-19 pandemic, the future of work is going to change. The future of everyday life has changed, and cloud computing is making it easier for people to work from home, access data, download videos, etc. And all of that is powered by the cloud. And so this index really tracks this important theme. And if you just define kind of cloud computing, it's really simple, right? It is basically the delivery of computing services via the cloud, i.e. the internet, right? And so whether you're accessing storage or different databases or analytics or intelligent software, it's all kind of supported via the cloud. And this is what the BVP Nasdaq Emerging Cloud Index tracks.
Ben, what are the holdings in EMCLOUD? What kind of stocks can we expect to find there?
Yeah, so when we think about the holdings, it's important to kind of have a framework for the methodology behind it, right? And so, what this index is comprised of is about 50, publicly listed companies, and they derive the majority of their sales from cloud computing products and services. So, a company that derives the majority of its revenue, from these services and products, and that's determined by Bessemer Venture Partners, the BVP. And what they look for is, kind of two things. One, do these companies, provide customers with a cloud delivery model, right? So, something that's hosted on a remote or, multi-tenant server infrastructure, access through a web browser or mobile, device, right? Like the iPhone or something like that. And two, that, provide customers through a cloud-based economic model, right? Subscription-based, volume-based, transaction-based. Those are kind of the two, definitions for, what type of products and services that they offer. And then there's, another important screen. And this really allows the index to kind of provide a way to track kind of these emerging cloud companies. So for one, for let's say new companies to join the index, it looks for revenue growth for 15% or more over the past 2 years, and then we have to see 7% growth in revenue for existing companies in the index. And then there's some other filters, right? Listed on Nasdaq, NYSE, CBOE, and some market cap filters. And then the index is equal weighted. And what this gives you is an index that is, predominantly, kind of in that technology and industrials, kind of theme that those sectors, and one that is oriented to smaller cap companies or smaller size companies rather. So, it's not going to be dominated by your mega large cap names, right? The household names. If we look at, the index today, it's about, the average, market cap names around 23.8 billion. And the market cap ranges from about 185 billion, which is, the behemoth of Adobe, to about 736 million in market cap. And if you just look at the screen, you can see, kind of an example of the top 10 holdings, right? You see some common names that we talked about before, and like Zoom Video. But then you see some other names in there that, are kind of behind the scenes, right? Think about like DocuSign and Twilio and Fastly. So this is what the index looks like, just the top 10. And again, it's an index that tracks kind of these emerging cloud companies, which right now the index is mostly kind of mid-cap oriented, which makes it different than some of the other indexes that are out there that tracks this space as well as provide exposure to the technology sector.
All right, then, well, let's talk about that and wrap up with performance of EMCLOUD relative to, let's say, the Nasdaq 100 or another technology-driven index. How does it look relative to the other ones?
Right. What's important here is just seeing how this index has performed over time, especially off that March low of the COVID-19 pandemic. What makes this interesting, what makes this index kind of has outperformed, it's really been since that point in time, right? It has responded quite profoundly off of that market low, right? Which is a sign that, the market is favoring, these cloud companies, right? So, year to date, the index is up about 33.7%. Off the low in March, it's up nearly 75%. And so it has performed well, even though it did, experience a significant move to the downside. The key is that how did it respond? And so right now, this index is up, over 30% year to date, compared to, let's say, the technology benchmark index in there that is up only about 7%. Over the past 12 months, it's outperforming, the technology benchmark index, the Nasdaq Composite, and the Nasdaq 100, which is what this chart reflects. But the key here, at least in my opinion, looking at how it has performed, is that it has responded off of that March low, and it's outperforming off that low against these other important benchmarks over the last, let's say, month or two, as well as over the last 12 months. So it has been outperforming. Investors who want to access this index can access it through two ETFs that track it. The ticker is WCLD for both of them. It's the Wisdom Tree Cloud Computing Fund based in the U.S. and the Wisdom Tree Cloud Computing UCITS ETF, WCLD, based in London.
All right, Ben, thanks so much for joining me on Trade Talks.
Thank you.
And thanks for joining me. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.